Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Life is rarely painted in clean lines of black and white. More often, it unfolds in shades of tension, where the people who rise to defend the vulnerable are sometimes the very ones we struggle to agree with on fundamental truth. Today, I want to speak about the Renee Good, a poet, a mother, and a woman who stepped into what she believed was the role of a watchman. In early January, Renee Good was fatally shot by a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent in Minneapolis, an incident that has sparked widespread national and global controversy, raising profound questions about protest, law enforcement, and the protection of the vulnerable. In Scripture, a watchman stands on the city wall not to dominate, not to attack, but to see, to discern danger, to warn, to cry out when injustice approaches. Ezekiel 33:6 tells us, "But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes any person from among them. He is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will require a watchman's hand." The calling of a watchman is simple and heavy: to see clearly and speak faithfully. As a migrant, I remember the quiet sting of sitting at a dinner table and being told, directly or indirectly, that people like me were the problem. In that moment, I didn't just feel unwelcome, I felt erased. What I need then was a voice on the wall, someone willing to see the danger of dehumanization and sound the alarm before silence hardened into cruelty. In her ICE watch work, Renee sought to be that voice. Her motivation echoed an ancient command from Leviticus 19:34. "The foreigner who resides among you should be to you as the native among you, and you should love him as yourself, for you were foreigners in the land of Egypt." She was trying earnestly to stand on the wall for the stranger. And yet, when I look at her life through a Bible lens, I cannot ignore a deep and painful tension, because a biblical watchman must also respect the gates he guards. This is where my struggle lies. I see in Renee a watchman's heart, but Scripture also teaches us that a watchman's methods matter. Romans 13:1 says, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God." These words remind us that governing authorities exist by God's allowance and serve a purpose within His divine order. Authorities is not accidental. It is permitted by God, even when imperfect. A watchman warns the city. He does not take up arms against the city's own guards. The tension is not merely theoretical. It became concrete, documented, undeniable. According to report later confirmed by Fox, Renee Good used her vehicle to obstruct federal immigration law enforcement. This was not symbolic resistance. It was not protected speech. It was a criminal act. First, it is against the law to obstruct federal immigration officers by physically blocking their operation, placing a vehicle directly in their path in deliberate resistance. Second, when law enforcement instructed her to exit the vehicle, she refused to comply. At that moment, protest crossed into open defiance of lawful authority. Scripture is clear. Disagreement never grants permission for disobedience where God has established order. And third, and most grave, video evidence now shows that she accelerated her vehicle toward an agent, striking him. This is no longer watchfulness. This is no longer warning. This is physical endangerment. The watchman's role is to sound the trumpet, not to wield force. Once the trumpet is replaced with speed and steel, the calling has been abandoned. Romans 12:17-18 instructs us, do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And Jesus himself warns in Matthew 26:52, all who take up the sword will perish by the sword. Even righteous concern for the vulnerable never justifies violence. Even moral passion must submit to God's order. This is where Renee's actions, in my view, cross a clear line from prophetic warning into physical confrontation. The watchman's instruction is the trumpet, not the sword. And even in protest, we are called to be peacemakers. So how do we hold this tension? How can someone act as a watchman for the foreigner while at the same time being deeply misguided in both method and morality? Scripture answers us with quiet clarity in 2 Corinthians 4:7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. Renee Good was like all of us, a jar of clay, fragile, cracked, imperfect. And this is precisely how God has always worked. He used Cyrus, a pagan Persian king, to liberate his people and even call him his anointed. He used Rahab, a Canaanite prostitute, to protect his spies and placed her in the lineage of Christ. He used Samson, ruled by passion and weakness, to deliver Israel. God can use a person's hand to fulfill one command, to love, to warn, to protect the foreigner, even when that same person is deeply flawed and their heart is not fully aligned. The power of the act comes from God, not from the not from the perfection of the messenger. This complicity reveals a deeper truth. Human watchmen were never meant to be our saviors. Renee is a flawed defender. The woman at the table is a flawed accuser. Both are sojourners on this earth. Both wrestle with their own brokenness, and both equally need grace. This reality redirects our gaze from all imperfect human figures to the one holy righteous standard, Jesus Christ. He is true watchman who never sleeps on the wall. He is the ultimate sojourner, the Word made flesh, who dwells among us. He did not merely warn of danger, he entered into it. On the cross, he satisfied the demands of justice once and for all. He perfectly embodied love for neighbor and stranger alike. Therefore, our measure for judging any human watchman comes from him. We caution against crossing lines because he taught, "For all who draw the sword will die by the sword." We honor hearts that speaks for the vulnerable because he declared, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Our calling is not to seek or appoint perfect human defenders, but to fix our eyes on the perfect defender, Christ. In his light, we learn how to live in this world of tension, holding fast to truth while extending grace, staying watchful while remaining humble, for only he is the true light on the wall and the eternal home for every sojourner. So yes, I can be grateful that Renee Good, in her flawed and fragile way, sought to stand on the wall when I once felt unseen. I can honor the biblical impulse to protect the foreigner without endorsing every method, every action, or every personal choice. Her story reminds me of this enduring truth. We are all jars of clay. We are all imperfect watchmen standing on our own walls. And that is why our hope cannot rest in the watchman, but in the one who guards our souls. Our true citizenship, our true home is found in him alone. Thanks for watching and see you next time.